Hi everybody, I'm Bill Sanders and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today we're going to take a look at what I think, and it's only what I think, not necessarily what everyone thinks, but let me tell you a quick little story. The other day I was watching this Zoom discussion and so forth, and people were talking about, well, what watches should every collector have in their collection? And they went on and they named one. And one of the guys said, well, they really need to have a Rolex Submariner. Well, why? And I didn't hear an answer to my question, why? And so I thought, well, maybe it's something we need to ask. What would be important to have in your collection? Well, of course, it depends on how you collect watches, the amount of resources you have that you can buy watches with, and a lot of other things. But I thought, well, what I'll do is put together what I think, and that's all it is, that what I think a beginner should have in his or her collection. And then I'll do another one on what an intermediate level collector should have, and finally on what I think that an advanced collector should have. Now, all of the watches that I show, I use the prices that were the list prices, the MSRP. These are the prices that, the, the manufacturer would like to buy them for. You rarely have to pay full price. If you look around and you're smart and even negotiate, you can get better prices on most watches. But the reason I wanted to do that, it was at least some kind of standard you could go by. The other thing I did was that I only selected watches that had a movement manufactured by the watch company. So this is another thing I think that's important. Now, a lot of people will say, well, you're a snob or something like that. No, it's not so much that. I try to be a snob, but I can't afford to be. But what it is more like, okay, if you're beginning watch collectors, you need to know when you pay because we're paying a lot of money for these watches, and a lot of companies put in a relatively cheap movement and charge a lot for it. And so that's why I did that. Okay, well, let's get started. The first type of watch that I think every collector should have is what I call an office watch. And an office watch is a simple, time only, perhaps with a date window of some sort or a hand date to tell you what the date is. And the ones that I have here, Nomos Metro 38 date. 38 refers to how big the watch is. And so I thought, well, 38 is a pretty good size. The movement in it is a caliber DUW 4101 manual. Now, what that means is that you wind it up yourself. It's a manual wind. All right, so most of the ones we're going to look at are automatic, but I thought, it's important to know that. Another one is Girard Perregaux, 1966. Now, the thing about that I see as office watches, they're not too ostentatious. They're like for your business, and this is an office watch. I mean, this is just it's a Harbring 2 Felix. They're ones to in an office you're doing stuff. Now, if you have a fun office, you can have a fun watch, but these are like serious business stuff. And the Girard Perregaux is a nice watch. It's about $8,000 MSRP. Like I said, you can find these for a lot less. Now, the last one is a Patek Philippe Calatrava 6006G. Now, this is a watch I happen to like a lot, but I don't have $31,000. It's 39 millimeters. It's a nice size that I like. And along the outer edge or the outer ring of numbers there, that's called a hand date, and so you can tell the date. All of these have dates. You don't have to. This one, my little Felix Harbring 2, doesn't have a date, but it keeps really good time. Excellent watch. Okay, this next group represent a kind of watch that most collectors get. Oftentimes it's the first watch, and this is called a sports watch. And a sports watch is a more informal watch that you can wear in different kind of places. A lot of people wear them as office watches, but they're more of sort of sportier, for lack of a better term, and there are all kinds of different sports watch. The one on the far left is Motorsport of a C1 Morgan. Morgan's an English motor car company. It has a Caliber SH21 manual winding. And it's on at 9 o'clock, it's got that little power reserve indicator. That's always good to have if you have a manual wind, because it tells you when time to wind it again. Next to it is another type of sports watch called a diver. This is a Rolex Submariner with a Caliber 3130, $7,900. Now, the thing about these two watches is that's sort of interesting. By and large, you can probably find the Christopher Ward watch, the C1 Morgan. You can get some good deals on it. Rolex Submariner and most Rolexes you have a hard time with, because not only you can buy a used one, you can find some deals on it, but on a new one, it's very hard to find a good deal, and often they'll charge you what they call a premium. I hate that term, premium. You're not getting a premium, you just have to pay more. They could call it gouging, unfortunately. Now, the one on the far right is another sports watch called the Pilot. This particular one is called the Zenith Type 20 Ton Up Pilot Extra Special. This is the ton up is from a term from the old cafe racers. It's running down back and forth. And this is the movement in that is an Elite 679 automatic. All of these, like I said, are sports, are more fun. They're, I don't know. I suppose the sub, a lot of people probably use the sub as an office watch too. One I have on is a Roger Dubury, and it's a diver. It's a type of diver, and and it's got a rubber band on it, so you can get it all wet and sweaty and stuff. So that's one of the reasons that we get sports watches. Now, the next type of watch is called a dress watch, and a dress watch is sort of for more formal affairs. And I read this one definition of a dress watch as anything that wasn't a sports watch, which I thought was pretty funny. By and large, dress watches are of precious metal. The ones I show you here are all gold, but also in platinum, and mainly gold and platinum. Okay, well, what you have is essentially they're time only, generally. They don't have a lot of gewgaws on them and gadgets and so forth. They're very straightforward watches, but they're more formal. Not the kind of watch you'd want to wear going outside and banging around and stuff. Even wearing it to the mall may be a bit much, but some people do. Okay, well, the three types I have here is Jaeger-LeCoultre, Master Ultra Thin, Small Seconds. By the way, too, another thing that I've seen with the dressy dress watches, they tend to be thinner, and I like that too. Next to it is Glatuda Original Senator. It's got a Caliber 3601 automatic. This one it has center seconds, but it's got the 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock in Roman numerals, and everything else is simply an index. And gold, pretty straightforward, the kind of thing you'd dress watch. The Vacheron Constantin Historiques Americain 1921 has a Caliber 4400 AS manual. Of the three of these, that's the only manual wound one. 40 millimeters gold. Now, this watch is different, and it's sort of the reason I like this one is you have a conversation piece. You go to a dinner party or something, you don't know what to talk about. Look at my watch, it's bent. Anyway, this is the whole idea of a dress watch. Again, with dress watches, really the very first watch that I got as a collector was a Patek Philippe Calatrava, but it was an older one, and I got a pretty decent, I mean, very affordable price. It was less than any of these. But that's another thing you can do. Sometimes your older watches are a bit smaller. Mine certainly is. And the thing about it is that since they're older and not as popular, you can get some really good prices on them. Okay, moving right along. This next type of watch is called a GMT. And a GMT stands for Greenwich Mean Time. And what they really are is that you have an hour hand and a minute hand, and then you have either another hand or another dial that you can set to some other time. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, if you're doing some international travel or even national travel going through different time zones, it's always helpful to have a little GMT with that. One of my favorite is the Tudor Black Bay GMT. And it says MT 5652 COSC automatic. No, the COSC means that it's been tested for accuracy through something called the COSC. 41 millimeters, about $4,000. Again, this is the MSRP. You can find better deals than that. The one next to it is Panerai Radiomir GMT. Pretty watch. I like this one a lot. It has a caliber 4001 automatic and 45 millimeters. It's sort of a big boy, and 11,700. Fairly expensive watch too, but a very pretty one. And you can see the two hands set for 10:10, and then at the 4 o'clock you can see that's where the GMT hand is. Now, essentially what that's saying is that it's 10:10 where this watch is, but another time zone, it's 4:10. And that's essentially what it is. On this one, I don't know if you can see it, it's got a relatively invisible hand, but it's there somewhere, and it's got a little red tip on it, so it's easier to see. Not the easiest one to see. This is a Zenith Elite GMT. Very good price I got on this. Excellent price. And it's a great watch, so you don't have to pay a fortune. Now, the one I really like, and actually you have to pay a fortune for, I can't afford it, is the Breguet Tradition. And I love the Breguet Tradition as a model because it looks like something Breguet made in his workshop in Paris. But what this one is a different kind of GMT, and it's got two dials. One up around 12 o'clock and the other one around 7 and 8 o'clock. And it's simply different times. And so you have, you set one to one time and one to another. The thing that's good about having two different modes you can set, or two different sub-dials, I guess you can set, is that certain places like India have a half-hour offset. So if it's 10 o'clock where you are, it might be 11:30 in India. So that's something that can be really helpful, especially if you're traveling there. Now, this final one is a chronograph. And chronographs, a lot of new collectors love to go out and get chronograph. That's fine. And I think that it's not a bad watch to have for beginners. But a couple things. One, all of the watches I've been talking about have been mechanical, and the quartz watches that are chronographs there are a lot of them. So if you're collecting mechanical watches, be sure they're mechanical and not quartz. The first one is a Longines Master Collection chronograph, caliber 688, 44 millimeters, just a little over 3,000, not much. The one in the middle is the Omega Speedmaster Professional Moonwatch chronograph. It's got a 1861 manual movement in it. Now, the thing that's important about that is that a version of that movement, an earlier version, was the one that actually went to the moon. And this one is 5350, 42 millimeters, extremely popular watch. And I know that a lot of people recommend, you should have a moon watch as part of your collection. I like them. I don't have one, but I think they're pretty cool. Now, for a chronograph, the one I like the most is the Parmigiani Fleurier Tonda Metrograph. Actually, there's one I like even better called the Aerial Light, but that's another story. This one's 40 millimeters, 12,500. One of the things I like about Parmigiani, they have excellent metal bracelets. All of these have metal bracelets, by the way. This is another one I like, and you can find some very good buys on this. Brand new. So it's the Parmigiani Fleurier Tonda Metrograph, PF315. Now the one I have, this is my my little. It's called a Beauvais monoretropont. Now a retropont is really uses two hands for timing, so you can start one and you start another one. Let's say two people are racing, you have one for, you can time both of them simultaneously. With a monoretropont, it's the hand of one hand clapping. What you do is that you got your starter button, and then for starting and reset and so forth. This is typical chronograph. This one though is from 1940, and I bought it when it was still new. I'm not quite that old, but they found a box of them, and it's called NOS for New Old Stock. And so this was brand new and never been used. They had to clean it up, and they reloomed it, and it works perfectly, both as a chronograph. Okay, now this is for beginners. There's a lot more as you become more sophisticated in collection, everything becomes more nuanced. And again, there are a lot of different styles of collection, but these 5 watches or types of watches, I thought, this would be something that I think would be a good way to get started in collection. Notice also, too, every one of them was a different brand. The reason for that is that, well, you can. I mean, I know this one guy who loves Omegas. He's got an Omega collection is second to none. Beautiful watches. He loves them, everything about them. If that's what you like, that's great. I know another guy that does collects nothing but Tag Heuers. He loves them too. So, these are, in terms of what you must have, what every collector should have. They're simply ones that, just my opinion, and not another thing to it. But if you're a beginner, you got to listen to something. Anyhow, well, listen, I'd like to hear your feedback on it. I know there are a lot of experienced collectors that are going to say, yeah, I can't, this will say, I can't believe you left out that but since I remember though, I'm only using one of each brand. So, I mean, there are several brands that have multiple numbers of watches. So do that. So if you want to say, I can't believe you didn't do this, go ahead. Anyway, this is an invitation to subscribe if you like. And until next time, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection.